Hello everyone, you welcome back to CBL Couture channel. Thank you for your likes, for your comments, for your words of encouragement, and most especially thank you for subscribing to this channel. I'm really grateful and I appreciate everyone. God bless you. Thank you so much. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing us how to draft, cut and sew a wrap dress in this video. So we are going to be doing three things. We are going to be drafting, we are going to cut, and we are going to sew at the same time. So I'm going to show us how to do this. But the first thing I did was to go ahead to have a sketch of what I wanted to sew, because it's going to give me more insight and more analysis on the dress that I want to make. So I did a sketch of what I wanted to make, and at the end of the day, as you seeing it on the screen itself, you can see the dress came out exactly the way I illustrated it on the sketchbook. This gives me a lot of insight and analysis on a design, and that was why I went ahead to have a sketch first before cutting or sewing or drafting the dress. So please watch the video to the end, and I would love to know your thoughts after watching the video. Just leave your thoughts in the comment section, and without further ado, let's get into the video. I have 4 yards of this slippery material that I'm going to be using for making the dress. And I also have on the table the basic bodies and the basic sleeve I'm going to be using to manipulate into the wrap dress I'm going to make in this video. I have a video on how to draft your basic sleeve and basic bodies on my channel, and I am going to be leaving the link in the description box below. Please do try to watch for better understanding. I already went ahead to trace out the basic bodies with the tracing wheel. So what I'm doing presently is to bring it out with a pen, a dark pen, so that we can see it clearly. What I did here was to place the basic bodies on the pattern paper like so, and I traced it out and copied it to the other side in order for me to have a full front bodies. For me, I love using full front bodies for this kind of style. For some people, they use just the half scale body and they are able to get what they want to get, but for me this is what I'm going to be using. So I went ahead to label my pattern so I can have a grasp of what I'm doing. After labeling, the next thing I did was to go in to add to the length of the pattern, because this the hip length is not the total length. I need to get it to the knee length before or after the knee length. So the length of this dress is dependent on what my client told me to do. This is what I'm marking, and I'm going down with my tape rule to give me a straight line at the M line, which is going to be the total length of this wrap dress. After getting the length, what I did was to go in with my ruler to measure a straight line. And presently what I'm doing is to mark what I have at the hip, the total measurement, half of my hip measurement, to connect to the M line. So the blue marker in my hand is going to represent the part I'm going to be needing for the dress, while the red marker is going to indicate the parts that I will be eliminating or removing from the dress. The very first part I want to remove or eliminate is the waist dart, and by so doing I'm going to measure whatever I have at the waist dart, take it to the side like so, connect to the armhole and to the hip, use my red marker to cancel that off, because it's going to tell me that I don't have any darts at the bodies again. I've taken it to the side, which I'm going to cut off. What I did for the first dart is what I'm going to do for the second dart also. Eliminate the dart, cancel that side off, cancel the dart also. So what I'm having presently on my pattern is half of my waist circumference, which is exactly what I need. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to go in at the neck depth, and the neck depth is in preference to what the owner of this dress wants. I went in at the neck depth, then also from the neck point towards the shoulder, I went in by 2 centimeters, or you can go in by your desired neck width. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark my waist, where I'm going to be starting the wrap from at the waist. For some people, they just go in from one side of the waist to the other side to get their wrap measurement. But for me, what I'm going to do is firstly go ahead to divide the half of the waist I have on the pattern presently by 4. This is what I want to do. You can choose to go out from the mid waist, from the very center waist, by whatever you want to go out by. But for this, I'm going to divide my waist into 4 in order to determine where my wrap is going to stop at one side of the dress. So for me, I picked the one closer to the other waistline where the dart is, and this is what I'm going to be using. That is going to be the width of the wrap dress at the waist before connecting it to the neck depth and to the shoulder line. The next thing I did was to divide the M line into 2 because I want to get the midpoint of the M line. After getting the midpoint, I then came in at the other side of the M line by 2.5 centimeters, which is an inch in inches, and I connected this line to my hip. This is a form of taping in my knee measurements. Then I used my ruler to connect from the waist to the neck depth and to the shoulder measurements, also connected from the waist to the M line. So in essence, I've gotten my wrap. This other side is going to be discarded, and the other side of the wrap is going to be the one I'm going to be using for the wrap dress. But I want it to be curvy, I don't want it to be straight. The next thing I did was to go up at the midpoint on the M line by 4 to 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches. Then use my curve ruler to connect in a curvy way, like so. At the 5 centimeters 2 inches, I used a more curvy ruler and I went in with my blue marker to shade off the areas of the wrap dress. I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces of this wrap dress. This is just a part, a single piece for the front. The front is going to be in 2 pieces. So this is where I'm going to be using for the wrap dress. I went in to trace it out on a pattern paper, a clearer pattern paper, for us to see exactly what it looks like. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is to add my seam allowance. The seam allowance I'm going to be adding, the shoulder and the armhole is going to be 1.5 centimeters, while the side is going to be 3 centimeters. The M line and the center front at the wrap side is going to be 2 centimeters, because I'm going to be folding in the 2 centimeters at the wrap area at the center front of the dress. I'm not going to be using a bias to sew it in. I will then go ahead to use my straight and curve rulers to connect all the dotted lines together to give me one whole line round the bodies. Once this is done, I have the front piece and I'll be going ahead to work on the back piece. Just like the way I did for the front piece, I'm going to extend the length of the back piece to the exact length measurements I did on the front piece. So afterwards, what I'm going to do next is to mark whatever I have at the hip for the back piece to the M line. For the back piece, I'm only going to be using half of the back piece because it's going to be cut on fold. Unlike the front part where I'm going to cut 2 pieces of this, I'm going to go in at the hemline. Also, I will taper in whatever I did for the front, eliminate my darts, that is waist darts, move it to the side waist. Everything I did for the front except for the wrap side of the front, that is what I'm not going to do for this back piece. Then I'm going to straighten the back line because there is no zip on the back part, so I'm going to straighten it to give me a straight line. It's not going to taper into the back like our normal zip dresses that we wear. Then go in at the neckline towards the shoulder by 2 centimeters like I did for the back, and also go in a little bit at the back neck for neck depth. These are the sides that I'm going to be using for the back piece. Just like what I did for the front, I will go ahead to add the same seam allowance I added for the front piece to the back. But for the center back, I wouldn't be adding any seam allowance because I'm going to be cutting it on fold once more. This is all I need to do for the back piece. And the next thing I'm going to go on to now is the sleeve pattern. For the sleeve pattern, I'm going to be cutting it directly on the fabric. I'm going to be placing it on the fabric. I will then go ahead to cut out all the patterns to give me just the exact parts that I'll be needing to cut on the fabric. So here I have the front piece. I'm going to be cutting two pieces out of this, and this is the back piece which I'm going to be cutting on fold. For the front piece, I'm going to fold my fabric into two like so. I'm just aligning the fabric to give me space, and I don't want to waste my fabric at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead to pin round the bodies before using my scissors to cut out exactly this piece. And once I'm done cutting, I'm going to set it aside to go ahead to cut the back piece also. So I'm cutting this on fold. There's no opening at the center back. It's in one piece. So once I'm done with this, I'll go ahead to cut my sleeve. For my sleeve, I folded the fabric into two. Then I went ahead to divide my fabric into two equal parts. And I also pinned it down so that it won't shift because the fabric is quite slippery. Connected the lines with my ruler to give me a straight line. For the sleeve, find the midpoint from the very crown edge to the hem line or the wrist line of the sleeve. Rule the line in between it. Then what I did next was to split open or cut open my sleeve into two parts. I cut through, not cut out. You can see at the very tip of the sleeve, I didn't cut it out. The sleeve is still joining because I want to give it volume in between at the midpoint of the sleeve. So I'm just going ahead to pin it down on the fabric. Then from that midpoint line, I'm going to go out at both sides of the sleeve at the midpoint by some centimeters or inches. This is dependent on how wide you want this volume to be. It is not a static measurement. You can go higher and you can go lesser. Once I've gotten the exact volume I needed, I went in to pin my sleeve pattern on the fabric to give me the exact cut out. Then I went in to blend with my chalk and also went out by 2 centimeters, which is less than 1 inch, just to give it more roundness at that very edge. And once I was done with this, I also went in to add my seam allowance, which I'm going to be using to fold the edge of the sleeve. This was all that I just did for the sleeve. That was why I said I wouldn't need to redraft it again on another pattern paper. I'll just manipulate it on the fabric directly. So once I was done with all this, the next thing I did was just to cut off. Don't forget, the side seam was added to the sleeve. The side seam for the sleeve was added. The upper seam for the armhole area was also added before cutting this out. I hope you get that. Here are the patterns that I have cut out: the front, the back, and the sleeve. I have this piece left that I'm going to be using as the wrap dress ropes. What I'm going to be doing next is to go to my sewing machine to sew. The very first thing I'm going to be sewing is the front piece. At the front, that is the wrap side of the front, I'm just trying to chalk my left side in order for me not to mix it up. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine, roll up my 2 centimeter seam I added at the front, and I'm going to sew it round to the very hem line because it's curvy. Then also take the back side, fold in what I added at the neckline, also like this, because I added the same 2 centimeter to the neckline. Once I'm done sewing both sides of the neckline and the front, I will join the front piece and back piece together at the shoulder line, and I'll come back to show us before going ahead to sew another part. So I'm done sewing it, and this is what I have. You can see I've gone in to sew in the neckline of both front and back piece, and I joined them together at the shoulder. I've not done any ironing on the dress, so I'm just sewing presently. And the next thing I'm going to do is to add my sleeve to the dress. I'm going to watch out for where I notched, so I won't put where the back supposed to be to the front, and I won't put where the front sleeve supposed to be to the back. That was the reason why I notched earlier, to get where the front and the back is. So once I'm done, I'm going to place the midpoint of the sleeve to the shoulder point of the dress. Then go ahead to pin round the sleeve line, pin the front to the front armhole, pin the back to the back armhole. Then I'll go around it to sew it just like so. I'm going to sew both sleeves together, and here I am done sewing the sleeve. I also went ahead to secure the edges with my serger. So once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to sew the sides from the sleeve to the side line. I'm going to match up the armhole line of the dress together, both front and back, then match up the side seams also together with my pins, and I will go ahead to sew it on my sewing machine. The dress is almost done. I've gone in to sew the necessary parts, and this is what I have for the dress. I'm yet to iron the dress. I just want to finish sewing everything before going in to iron the dress, because I don't need a part to iron before sewing it. So I'm done with the sewing of the dress, and what I'm going to be sewing into the dress is the rope for the dress itself. So here I have the rope that I'm going to be sewing in for this dress. This is the rope. So I have a side that is open that I'm going to be inserting one of the rope into that very hole, and the other one will be at the front side like so. And once I'm done with this sewing of the rope, the dress is complete. I'll go ahead to iron it for smoothness and neatness, then come back to show you what it looks like on my client. So this is what the dress looks like on my client. She loves it. I love the fact that it came out just exactly as I envisage, and also got new clients because of the making of this dress, because I made this dress for my clients. And if you want to try something like this, you can just try it out and let me know the outcome in the comment section. I would love to read from you or hear from you, and also get to look at what you were able to create if you decide to create this wrap dress. Thank you for watching my video to the very end. Please, if you are just watching my video or seeing my channel for the very first time, please subscribe, join the family. Please do like and share. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, bye bye.